Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Circular Economy Forum of 2025. Please give yourselves a round of applause for making it at 9:05 despite the Metro Manila traffic. So, this is the first ever Circular Economy Forum of ADB, and we are so excited to have you here. The theme for this year is Advancing a Circular Economy for a Sustainable Future. And we're going to be together for 2 days, and it's a platform for the wider adoption of circular economy approach in investments and initiatives in the region as presented in ADB's Environment Action Plan of 2024 to 2030. My name is Anna Oposa. I am the Marine Conservation and Circular Economy Specialist of ADB's TA on reducing marine litter in the region. I'm also one of the organizers, and I have the pleasure of being your host and your MC for the next 2 days. So what are our objectives for these 2 days? Well, first is to promote and reinforce the circular economy as one of the core approaches guiding ADB's operations. So this morning, you'll hear from different sectors on what circular economy looks like in energy, in water and urban and development, in mobility and transportation. So we'll see what circular economy looks like in different sectors. We'll also share knowledge, case studies, best practices, and experiences from across Asia and the Pacific. We have different speakers talking about policies, about different technologies and innovations from different parts of the region. And lastly, to instill awareness of enabling conditions that can drive the uptake of circularity in the region. So what are the enabling conditions that we need to be able to promote and accelerate a circular economy? So what are the principles of a circular economy? I'm sure many of us in the room are familiar with these, but just a quick recap. First is to eliminate waste and pollution. So not just reduce, but actually eliminate it. And then second is to keep circulating products and materials in use at their highest value. And finally, to regenerate nature. So how do we extract and consume while regenerating nature? So what is our journey? What are we going to do in the next 2 days? So right now we are in the opening plenary, the opening session, and then we'll have a coffee and networking break, and then we'll hear the opening plenary later with the different sectors and circular economy. And then after lunch, we have 3 concurrent tracks. First is enabling conditions, and then we have digitalization and innovation, and then the digital innovation of the plastic value chain. And then we'll have a networking break at the end of the day. Tomorrow, please be back because we have also concurrent sessions. The 3 sessions are going to run at the same time with similar themes, but then we have different topics, so you'll see that. We have topics on sustainable finance, on data collection and management, and piloting digital applications. We'll also have, in the later part of the morning, how do we align circular economy strategies with sustainable development goals, with urban and rural development, and data governance framework. And then in the afternoon, we have an exciting panel on how do we integrate different stakeholders in the circular economy. So informal waste sector, women and girls, and indigenous peoples and civil society organizations. We also invite you to look at the exhibitor. So when you go out, you'll see tables. Right when you entered, I'm sure you saw tables with different banners. So we invite you to go there, talk to them, and you learn about the different services and products that apply a circular economy. Now, for any event to be successful, you have rules of engagement or just some basic guidelines that we would like to follow. So first is be present. There were actually 1,000 people who registered to be here, and you are the chosen ones. The 300 to 350. Yes, give yourselves a round of applause, di ba? You made it to get one of the seats here, but there are going to be more coming for sure in the next few days, in the next day and tomorrow. And keep your phones and other gadgets on silent because when we hear ringing or when we hear or maybe worse, we'll hear Shopee like that. So please put your phones on silent and your gadgets on silent. Engagement will be done via a software that is online. It's called AHA Slide. So it's similar to Mentimeter or Slido. So we'll show you the QR code. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to participate in some of the online polls, then please have your gadget in hand. We will also have a couple of networking sessions, so please network with intent. Maximize this opportunity because you know the people who registered here are somehow working or connected in the circular economy. So please tap the person on your right and say good morning. Yes, good morning. Yes. Tap the person on your left and say nice to meet you. Nice to Okay, so later during the break, you can talk to each other and introduce yourselves. And most importantly, have fun because we curated a program that we would want to attend. So it's like, okay, if we were to attend the Circular Economy Forum in ADB, what is the kind of case studies, what are the kind of lectures or talks that we would want to hear? So please maximize this and have fun and introduce yourself. Now is not the time to be an introvert. So make an effort to introduce yourselves, exchange business cards, and talk to people that you will be eating and having a coffee with. Restrooms can be found on either side of the auditorium. So there's one on this side, there's one on this side. So you can just go out and turn right or left, and you'll be able to locate a restroom. Coffee and snacks will be available outside. I have heard very reliable rumors that the famous ADB crinkles will be available, but it's going to be later in the afternoon. So you have to stay. That is our bait for you to stay until the late afternoon. But unfortunately, you cannot bring food and beverages here in the auditorium. So if you wish to consume your snacks and your coffee and your tea, it will have to be outside. So just keep that in mind. Other reminders, the ADB briefs and other knowledge products are available outside for free, so please take them. There is a table, I think if you go out and you go to the left, there's a table there with some brochures, so you can just take them. And then if you registered, you will have a notebook. Did you guys get your notebook? Not yet. Okay, then we will make sure that you will get your notebook. It's made of the cover is made of recycled plastics, and we have a plantable pencil available. So if you want to grow sage or citronella in your homes, you can take one of those pencils. Don't throw them away because there are seeds at the end of this pencil. So that's your take home. You can make your knowledge and your sage grow. And then there are also charging stations at the back. You'll see there are tables there with power strips, so you can use that to charge your gadgets. You will have to stay at the back though because there aren't any ones available here, just because we don't want people to trip, right? So it'll just be there. And if you are going to post about this event on social media, the hashtags are here, or the accounts are also here. Hashtag ADB Advancing Circularity. You can also tag at ADB Environment on X, at ADB underscore HQ on Instagram, and at Asian Development Bank on LinkedIn. And if you are taking groofies, or if you're taking group photos, or taking photos with people you just met today, please make sure you have their consent when you post their photo. And make sure they also look good, because maybe you're the only one looking good and then the people beside you, they have their eyes closed like that. So just make sure you also have their consent. And finally, before we officially open the program, we'd like to invite you to download the event app. Yes, that is the name. It is not just any event app, but it is the event app. And if you download it, you can access more information about the Circular Economy Forum. You can access more information about the speakers, the schedule, the map of, well, you found ADB headquarters, but there's also a map of ADB facilities and participant guidelines, the feedback form. We will also be uploading copies of the presentations, and you can access the schedule there as well. So those are our opening preliminaries, and now we can officially begin. So to welcome everyone, we would like to call on the Director General of the Climate Change and Sustainable Development Department of ADB, DG Bruno Carrasco. Bruno leads ADB-wide knowledge, innovation, policies, and strategies in all thematic and sector operation areas and ensures compliance with environment and social safeguard policies. He oversees the administration of trust funds and global funding initiatives and provides advice to management on strategic and policy matters, work plans, and major operational matters. Let's all welcome DJ Bruno.
Thank you very much, Anna, for that warm introduction. Distinguished guests, ADB colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. It's great to see such a nice, enthusiastic group of colleagues and guests starting almost sharp at 9. Welcome, and a very warm welcome at that, to Asian Development Bank's first Circular Economy Forum. So here's the first one, with the theme of advancing the circular economy for a sustainable future. As a representative of the Climate Change and Sustainable Development Department, this work means a lot to us. As you've heard from Anna, the circular economy is defined as a system or value chain built on three principles: eliminating waste and pollution, and there's a lot of that in the region; keeping products and materials in use as long as possible. I tend to keep my ties very, very long, and my wife says, no, you should throw them out. They look a little bit old, but we do our best. And of course, through these practices, promoting the protection and regeneration of natural resources. So all very important principles. Asia and the Pacific is experiencing a complex development challenge, multiple challenges at that, resulting from multiple imbalances between, on the one hand, economic development, and largely reflected and manifested through our consumption habits and production modes, and of course, undermining nature, biodiversity, and eventually the sharing of life on our planet. To address the increasing complexity of the challenges faced by our developing member countries across Asia and the Pacific, we have revisited our development narrative, and we've recently launched the theme of solving complex challenges together. In this context, we need to keep in mind three important messages. And I say this with a thought on how we work at ADB, but also how we need to reach out to countries and to clients. So one, we need to break silos. And that seems like a fairly easy challenge, but it isn't. And this starts by recognizing that cross-cutting and multidimensional and the multidimensional nature of these challenges. Our president, President Kanda, spoke eloquently on this the other day in his address on his first 100 days at ADB. Second, in addition to breaking the silos, we need to challenge ourselves in demonstrating innovation and transformation in anything and everything that we do. We need to look forward, taking on today's challenges and not yesterday's challenges. It's easy to go back to some of the kind of more straightforward development projects that we used to do. Are they generating value addition? Are they addressing the challenges that we face today? We have to ask ourselves that. So if we don't do this, we have to ask ourselves, what indeed is the value proposition of what we do? If indeed if everything is low-hanging fruit, how do we justify our work? So this is something that, again, is a big challenge for us, looking forward, addressing today's problems and not yesterday's problems. And then third, what we hear often, we need to act urgently and at scale. And in a way, a self-criticism also, we need to get out of the starting blocks more quickly. So today's challenges are multiple. Many of them, such as pollution, were largely ignored by certainly a lot of the development community in the past, with some exceptions. Others, like plastic waste and the scale of the problem, have more recently been integrated into the development agenda, and that's great to see. And then others, such as the critical mineral supply chain, have surfaced more recently as a product of the new technologies that we look for in addressing some of these challenges. Now, the circular economy framework can provide solutions to these and many other challenges. Critically, and I think this is a very important message, it provides integrated systems approaches, so the systems approach is a way of looking at these challenges, to guide complex programmatic responses, which are more effective and balance economic, social, and environmental values. So again, we need to look at integrated solutions, looking at systems-wide approaches. Now, some of the lessons learned from the initial cross-sectoral investments combined with our commitment to promoting private sector development form the foundation of ADB's capacity to successfully deliver simple solutions to complex problems. I'd like to give you an example. We have looked at the need to support integrated approaches to marine debris management, in this case in Indonesia. And ADB, in partnership with AFD, the French Development Agency, KfW, the German Development Bank, have approved a $1.5 billion in policy-based loan addressing marine debris management through national policy, whilst in parallel, ADB's private sector team have invested in closed-loop bottle-to-bottle recycling facilities. And this secures three things. It ensures greater informal sector jobs. Two, it enhances regional supplies of recycled food grade plastics. And three, providing an economically viable outlet for bottles which may otherwise have entered the oceans. For mostly the ADB colleagues and any of you who were here on Environment Day, it was great to see the presentation that was made, I think, by Christine on the cleaning up of the Pasig River. Here is another challenge, in some ways maybe a mother of all challenges that we face nearby, and not an easy one to address. But we need to put our best minds together, and I know a lot of good minds are working on this to be able to find solutions, and we know what the solutions are. A lot of times it's, again, taking that systems approach, it's integrating, it's bringing in cross-cutting ideas as part of the solution. Now, adopting systems approaches has allowed ADB to better capture and measure a wide range of program benefits and impacts, which in turn allows for a clear contribution to both ADB's Strategy 2030 targets as well as the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we know we need to put a lot of effort in securing those SDGs. Now, turning to the forum itself, as Anna has said, it's a two-day forum. We're very excited to see a very strong participation. Very nice to see a group of younger participants than the usual. And I think this shows the importance that all of you attach to this. As with climate change, we have been a generation that have benefited, and what we bequeath to future generations is certainly more challenging than what our forefathers or foreparents bequeathed to us. So over the next 2 days, we have an ambitious agenda to show how ADB and our members have developed and are utilizing circular economy approaches to address these complex challenges. While we will be able to explore how these approaches are being used in new and innovative program solutions across the regions and sectors, we want to hear from you. We want to see what some of the challenges in your countries, some of the challenges in your cities, and how you see this framework coming through to address some of these challenges. In closing, I'd like to say that we build on previous commitments that ADB has launched, including a more ambitious food security funding mobilization and partnerships with 20 other development banks. Recently announced its ambition to scale up sustainable, inclusive, and resilient ocean, including significantly increasing investments to reduce marine pollution last week at the Nice conference. Investments in circular economy will be key to meeting this ambition, and ADB is ready to work with the partners to catalyze financing and leverage regional experience to enable this transition. The Asian Development Bank stands ready to support the developing member countries and its clients to work with partners in taking forward integrated solutions through the circular economy. Over the next 2 days, I will invite you to engage with exciting solutions, be innovative, think outside the box, and enjoy such things as the forum's marketplace, the vendors that you may have seen lined up that Anna mentioned, and share your experiences and insights and explore opportunities to collaborate. Putting our heads together makes the difference. Finally, I'd like to say that this could not have been happened without the tremendous enthusiasm and effort of the Circular Economy Working Group at ADB, which is part of the Environment Community of Practice. And they are among the key champions of looking at cross-cutting ways to address these complex challenges, and I appreciate that. We have great participation from the Water and Urban group, the Agriculture, Food, Natural Security, Natural Resources group, and of course our environment group at CCSD. Together, I am sure we can address many of these complex challenges. I wish you all an inspiring Circular Economy Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DG Bruno. So to recap, there are three key messages that DG Bruno shared with us. First is to break silos. This is so important because circular economy can only work if we are working together and in the different sectors. To challenge ourselves, so that is a big task. We have to go beyond what we're used to. Don't just think out of the box. We have to see that there is no box. And then finally, act urgently and at scale. I often hear thought leaders saying, like, we know the solutions, but it's just a matter of when we are going to do them and the scale that we are going to do them in. So thank you so much for those key messages. Now, to open the forum, we have USEC, the Undersecretary Jonas Leones. He serves as the Undersecretary for Policy, Planning, and International Affairs of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR. And his rank is Career Executive Service Officer Rank 1. He supervises the Manila Bay Coordinating Office and oversees the rehabilitation of Manila Bay, which is one of the DENR priority programs. In his role, he also coordinates all international environmental concerns, including the implementation of international environment treaties and the Philippines' participation in international environmental bodies and conferences. Let's all welcome USEC Jonas Leones.
Thank you, Ms. Anna, for that generous introduction. Distinguished guests, esteemed partners, and speakers, colleagues from government, the private sector, civil society, and the international community, isang magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. A pleasant good morning to all. It is an honor to join you at the Circular Economy Forum. Today's theme, Advancing Circular Economy for a Sustainable Future, resonates deeply, particularly for developing countries like the Philippines. Let me begin by thanking our organizers and partners for bringing us together at a time when our choices and our leadership matter greatly. As the late UN Secretary General Kofi Annan once said, our biggest challenge is the new century is to take an idea that seems abstract, sustainable development, and turn it into a reality for all the world's people. That is our shared purpose today. Like many emerging economies, the Philippines is a nation on the rise. The vibrant cities, the growing industries driving economic progress. Yet this growth comes with escalating resource consumption and waste generations. Millions of tons of plastic waste, construction debris, food waste, and other materials, much of which ends up in landfills, waterways, or the oceans. Globally, we know this is not sustainable. The linear model of take, make, dispose drives climate change, depletes finite resources, and undermines human health and ecosystems, driving us to enormous environmental and economic challenges. A circular economy offers a powerful response. It proposes that instead of extracting resources and generating waste, we design systems where materials are reused, recycled, and regenerated. Circularity enhances resilience, creates green jobs, fosters innovation, and reduces emission. If I may say so, this decade is pivotal for taking action against plastic pollution. In October 2021, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN, adopted a circular economy framework that provides a shared vision to mainstream circularity across key sectors: agriculture, industry, packaging, electronics, and beyond. It offers a vital platform for regional cooperation, harmonized standards, and shared learning. We are working with ASEAN partners to build regional markets for recycled materials and foster cross-border innovation partnerships. In March 2022, the resumed fifth session of the UN Environment Assembly, or UNEA 5.2, Resolution 514 was adopted to convene an intergovernmental negotiating committee with the aim of developing an international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution, including in the marine environment through the Global Plastic Treaty. This underlines how urgent this issue is on the world stage. We are hopeful that the negotiations will end during the second part of the fifth session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, which will take place in Geneva, Switzerland this coming August. The Philippines is actively engaged in the negotiations for the Global Plastic Treaty, as this represents our commitment to ending plastic pollution by driving actions across the plastics life cycle, promoting innovations, and transitioning to circular systems. Similarly, the Sustainable Development Goals from SDG 12 on responsible consumption and production, the SDG 13 on climate action, and SDG 14 on life below water call for transformative shifts in how economies function. While the Philippines is under a great challenge, we are also at a moment of profound opportunity. As part of our national climate commitment under the Paris Agreement, the Philippines submitted its first nationally determined contribution in 2021, targeting a 75% reduction of greenhouse gas emission by 2030, primarily conditional on international support. The NDC covers key sectors such as agriculture, waste, industry, energy, and transport, and is operationalized through the NDC Implementation Plan, which outlines specific policies, measures, governance mechanism, and financing strategies to achieve these targets. Moving forward, there is a need to embed circularity more systematically into the country's NDC, not only as a waste management solution, but as a cross-cutting strategy. Circular interventions can strengthen mitigation outcomes while delivering co-benefits for resilience, green jobs, and resource efficiency. Integrating this into our national targets offers a pathway to raise ambition while aligning with development priorities and unlocking climate-aligned investments. Delivering co-benefits for resilience, green jobs, and resource efficiency. Integrating this into our national targets offers a pathway to raise ambition while aligning with development priorities and unlocking climate-aligned investments. In July 2022, the Extended Producer Responsibility Act of 2022 was enacted into law and mandates companies to take responsibility for their plastic packaging waste, driving corporate actions, recycling innovations, and investment. As of June 2025, may I report to everyone that 991 establishments were able to register their EPR programs with the department. 171 of these came from obliged enterprises, 78 from collectives, 442 under producer responsibility organizations, and 300 micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. The Philippine Development Plan for 2023 until 2028 embeds the circular economy as a cornerstone of climate resilience and green jobs creation. Our National Plan of Action on Marine Litter targets an 80% reduction in marine plastic by 2040. Across the country, local governments are pioneering zero-waste models, plastic-free markets, and community-based circular enterprises. Yet, transitioning from pilot projects to systematic change demands bold collaboration. To succeed, we must address several urgent needs. To our friends, the investment community, development banks, financing partners, we urge you to join and support us in this endeavor. The Philippines needs strategic investments on the following: materials recovery facilities to process mixed waste streams. Number two, advanced recycling technologies, including chemical recycling. Number three, reverse logistic networks to enable product take-back and reuse. And number four, green industrial parks for circular value chains and industrial symbiosis. We must also accelerate the adoption of the following: digital platforms for tracking materials, smart packaging and eco-design standards, waste-to-energy technologies with strict environmental safeguards, and circular business models, which includes leasing, product-as-a-service manufacturing. Our micro, small, and medium enterprises are often the most dynamic circular innovators, but they lack affordable finance. We urge impact investors, green bonds, blended finance, and venture capital to support this sector. Equally critical is investing in our people through the following: training in circular design and remanufacturing, support for informal waste workers to transition to formal employment, public awareness campaigns to drive behavioral change. Colleagues and friends, advancing circular economy is not just about environmental responsibility. It is also massive economic opportunity. By 2030, it could generate 4.5 trillion US dollars globally. For the Philippines, it promises millions of green jobs, resilient supply chains, and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. We have the vision. We have emerging policy frameworks. What we need now is a scale, speed, and partnership. As we look ahead, I will leave you with the words of Ellen MacArthur, whose work has shaped much of today's circular economy thinking. I quote, "In nature, nothing is wasted. Everything is transformed. The circular economy gives us the opportunity to redesign our systems and create future that is regenerative by design." End of quote. The Philippines is ready. We have a bold policies, dynamic entrepreneurs, and rising generations committed to a sustainable future. We have the momentum to create a regional circular economy, one that drives innovation, creates jobs, and enhance resilience. But we cannot do this alone. We need visionary investors to fund the infrastructure of the future, development banks and donors to catalyze new projects, private sectors, leaders to transform business models, civil society to inspire, empower, and hold us accountable. And the government of the Philippines will continue to provide the enabling policies and leadership needed to support this collective effort. To all of you here today, the Philippines is ready for your partnership. Together, we can make the Global Plastic Treaty a catalyst for innovation and impact. We can show that sustainable growth and environmental stewardship go hand in hand. We can transform today's linear challenges into tomorrow's circular opportunities. Let us move forward together. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you so much, Isaac. So the highlight is that circular economy is not just about environment, but also it's an economic opportunity. So we'd like to invite DG Bruno and Yusek Leonas and our keynote speaker, Rob Kaplan, to come on stage for a photo opportunity before we go into our keynote. Yes, let us join on stage.
We'd also like to invite Yoko Watanabe, the Director for Environment of ADB, to join on stage, please. Thank you so much. Thank you, DG. Thank you, Yoko. Thank you, Yusek. And I'm gonna introduce you. So you will hear from Yoko later in the afternoon, later in the morning after the coffee and networking break. So now to round out like a circular economy, our morning opening, we have our keynote speaker, Rob Kaplan. So Rob is the founder and CEO of Circulate Capital, a circular economy investment management firm in high growth markets. He established Circulate Capital in 2018 to invest in partnerships with global brands and institutional investors into solutions that deliver financial returns, advance the circular economy, fight climate change, and prevent the flow of plastic waste into the ocean. Rob has led the firm to launch 3 funds and invest in 16 companies that have since kept over 150,000 metric tons of plastic waste in circulation. Can't even visualize. Wow, there's a fans club around. Thank you. And prevented 200,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. He currently sits on the board of directors at the Circulate Initiative and Delterra, independent nonprofits driving systems change in recycling. So let's give a round of applause to our keynote speaker who arrived from Singapore yesterday. Let's all welcome Rob Kaplan.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure and honor to be here. As Anna said, I'm the founder and CEO of Circulate Capital. We're an investment fund manager focused on advancing the circular economy in South and Southeast Asia. I'm going to share a little bit of a practitioner's perspective on how to invest in circularity and why Asia is at the center of this transition from a linear economy. You know, what we just heard from the Undersecretary, a linear economy is take, make, waste, to a circular economy where we can reuse and utilize the resources that we've already extracted from the earth and use that to help fuel our growth and economic development. I'm going to talk about the problem a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about the opportunities, but I'm mostly going to talk about what we do at Circulate Capital and how we invest in advancing the circular economy across the region. It is also, I'll talk a little, mostly about plastic because that's really where we have been focused to date, but I will talk a lot about where we're looking to go and how we're expanding to other materials. It truly is an honor to be here for this first Circular Economy Forum at ADB. When I founded Circulate Capital 6 years ago and set up in Singapore to focus on this region, I got a lot of strange looks when I talked about the circular economy. People mostly didn't know what I was talking about. So I really didn't imagine that we'd be here at a forum like this just a few short years later. So really excited about this conversation today. I won't spend too much time on the problem. We know that we're facing a global waste crisis and that it's worsening. Plastic consumption has increased 4 times in the last 30 years. And as we look forward, we're expecting plastic waste to grow 3 times more over the coming years. Most of that is happening in Asia. If we do nothing, we would expect that the plastic life cycle will contribute about 20% of the world's global carbon budget over the next 15 or so years. And it doesn't just end with the environment, it also has a lot to do with livelihoods. Tens of millions of people's lives depend on trading waste, and they are at-risk populations. There's a huge opportunity here to improve livelihoods with this work, and in fact, many of these are women as well. So that's a lot about the problem, but we see as investors, obviously, we're looking for the opportunity. There's a lot of research out there that has calculated this and looked at where do we see the investment opportunity. If we believe that we can increase recycled content and packaging to 20 or 30% over the next decade or the next 5 to 10 years, that will create a $100 billion investment opportunity. We'll need more than 60 million tons a year of additional recycling capacity online to achieve such a goal. We believe this will continue to be driven by policy, by consumer demand, corporate commitments, and supply chain transparency. But it's not just about the investment opportunity. One of the great things about the circular economy is that it has multiple benefits depending on how you look at it. And obviously, there's a huge environmental benefit to the circular economy as well. If we captured all of the plastic waste that ends up in the environment in South and Southeast Asia, and instead of mismanaging it, put it back into higher and better uses, we could prevent almost 230 million metric tons of greenhouse gas from entering the environment. That's the same as taking more than 60 coal-fired power plants offline. And if you look at other materials like e-waste, 50% of the world's e-waste comes from Southeast Asia. Yet, only 12% was recycled in a formal system. And if you look at the value of the critical minerals and materials and metals that are trapped inside of our used electronics, the value of that is over $90 billion a year. So we're spending millions of dollars to throw away billions of dollars of opportunity and value. But I believe that the true impact of the circular economy is not just about thinking about this as an environmental crisis to solve. The true opportunity here is thinking about this as a way to drive economic development and improve livelihoods. That's tens of millions of people we've talked about, new jobs, formalization, and helping people live better lives. Asia is at the epicenter of both this challenge and opportunity. 50% of global plastic is produced here in the region. And nearly 50% of global plastic waste leaks into the environment from the same region. If you think about ocean plastic, most of that plastic gets into the ocean through rivers, and 70% of those rivers are right here in Asia. The system hasn't kept pace. This isn't because we like throwing plastic into the ocean. This is because we've had rapid economic development over the last couple decades. A generation ago, it was okay to throw our trash into the river or into our backyard because it was 90% organic material. But today, the trash and the waste looks a lot more like the waste you see in the US or in Europe. But we haven't had 70 plus years of investment in recycling and waste management infrastructure in this region that we haven't seen in other parts of the world. So this is where the solutions exist, but we have to increase investment. The good news is that we are seeing capital increasing into this space globally. As we looked over the last 5 years or so, we saw almost $200 billion invested globally in plastic circularity. But the problem is that very little of it is coming to Asia, less than 10% or so. Most of it goes into Europe and North America, which is incremental opportunity. Most of that infrastructure and those supply chains have been developed. The exponential opportunity is here in this region. This is where the problem is. This is where the opportunity is. And that's why we created Circulate Capital, and why we're really excited to be engaging with ADB today. As we've been investing in the circular economy for the last 5 years or 6 years here in the region, we've started to identify kind of a recipe of 3 key things that are enabling more private capital into this space. The first is obviously supportive policies. Extended producer responsibility. We know that the Philippines is leading in Southeast Asia on this space. In South Asia, India has created a framework that is driving significant private investment, not just by evolving their extended producer responsibility, but by setting a recycled content mandate, has really driven a step change in private capital investment and scaling of infrastructure. A big second area of opportunity that we see is investable pipelines. Most private investors don't understand this sector. You can't go to a conference. If you go to Singapore and go to a fintech conference, you can find 100 startups to invest in fintech. That doesn't really exist in the recycling and circular economy space. It takes a lot of time, energy, resources to build trust with the people who are leading this sector in Indonesia, in Thailand, in the Philippines. And it takes even longer to truly originate an investment deal. These are the big areas of focus that I think are holding back a lot of private investors. And then I think there needs to be more tools in the toolbox for unlocking private capital. More funds, more fund-to-funds, risk-sharing structures. guarantees, blended finance, public-private partnerships. We have not seen all of these tools deployed in the region yet. We know that they exist. We have them in many other sectors, but they're sitting on the sidelines of the circular economy. And that's where we see a lot of the excitement and opportunity as we move forward, which is groups like ADB coming to the table and thinking more holistically about where you can play. At Circulate Capital, we've started to operationalize this approach. We started with about $100 million from large corporates. We brought PepsiCo and Coca-Cola together, Unilever and Procter & Gamble, Dow, Danone, and several others. And these brands came together with about $100 million to invest in recycling supply chains in the region. We were able to then start to bring in family offices, folks like Builders Vision, Minderoo Foundation, Ruma Group, folks that are on the impact investor side. But really where we started to get scale was engaging the development finance community. We turned our $100 million into over $200 million from EIB, Proparco, IFC, BII. IDB helped anchor our new fund in Latin America that we launched last year. This is really where we've started to see a big step change from emerging managers and early stage investors in private capital to thinking about what scale can really look like. So at Circulate Capital, we are investing in systems change. We're investing in transforming supply chains at scale, delivering competitive financial returns and positive impact at the same time. And for us, both of those things are absolutely critical. They're not trade-offs, they're integrated. So we have 4 key areas that we've focused on at Circulate Capital. Number 1 is we're sector specialists. We play in the circular economy. We invest in circular supply chains exclusively. We've invested in 12 companies in Southeast Asia, but more than 20 companies globally. We have the largest portfolio of circular economy in South and Southeast Asia. We also have really unique relationships with the ultimate customers of this recycled material. These brands play an integrated role in our strategy. They help us originate deals. They help us in due diligence in evaluating deals. But most importantly, they are entering into commercial relationships with portfolio companies to help them scale and deliver more material to market through the value chain. We've also invested a lot in local teams. So we have investment professionals on the ground in India, Indonesia, Thailand, and other parts of the region to be able to originate and build trust with local entrepreneurs. And we've integrated our impact and ESG program deeply throughout our process. It's in our, from A to Z, start to finish, how we manage our investments, and we've been recognized globally for how we've built this program. So how do we do this? A couple key elements of our strategy that I wanted to highlight for this group. Number 1, you have to think about the circular economy holistically. You cannot just invest in collection. You cannot just invest in recycling. You have to think about it all the way through. And at Circulate Capital, we start even before collection. We start at the innovation side, new materials, product design, advanced recycling technologies. And then how is that deployed through companies that collect, sort, process, recycle, and manufacture? We focus primarily on growth equity in SMEs and family businesses across the region. These are companies, they've been around 10, 20 years. They have been profitable, but they've never had outside capital before. We're the first investors coming in, helping these companies professionalize, scale up, build their first international standard facility. And we do a lot of work to help them get there. We provide technical assistance on things like responsible sourcing and traceability. We bring in those commercial relationships with the large brands. We help them develop new products by engaging in different types of plastic recycling or making higher value products at the end of the day. And we spent a lot of time with helping our management teams professionalize and improve their leadership. So overall, we've raised over $260 million of assets under management. We've reviewed, actually this is probably a little out of date, we've reviewed probably more than 2,500 deals globally. We've invested in over 20 companies, and those companies have catalyzed additional capital. We've been able to bring in over $300 million of co-investment and catalyze capital through our investments. I'll just take a little bit more time now to talk about the types of companies that we have invested in to sort of bring this to life a little bit. I'll focus mostly on our recycling deals because I think those are maybe the easiest to talk about. One company is called Lucro. They're in India, and they started as a plastic bag manufacturer. And they started recycling. They started a very small recycling line, about 1,000 tons a year on the side of their factory. Actually, it was outside the factory. And they were doing this because it was cheaper to use recycled material than it was to use virgin material. One of their virgin suppliers was Dow, one of our corporate LPs. They introduced us to Lucro. And collectively, we developed a business plan to help Lucro scale up their recycling operation, not just for their own manufacturing purposes, but so that they could be a leading supplier of recycled plastic across India to other plastic product manufacturers. Fast forward about 5 years, we've invested over $10 million in this company. They've 30x their capacity, are now over 30,000 tons of recycling capacity a year. India's largest and leading LDPE, low density polyethylene recycler. They've entered into a joint venture with Dow, where Dow is actually helping them co-brand and co-distribute their recycled granules to other plastic product manufacturers. And they just raised a large round. They brought in capital from Unilever, who directly invested and bought about a 12% share of the company, and about $20 million loan from another DFI. Another example that is worth talking about, which I know is a favorite of this group, is Treaty Oasis. Is Deanne here? I saw Deanne there. Hi, Deanne. So I won't steal all of Deanne's thunder because I know that she's about to tell this story too, but we're really proud of it as well. We first partnered with Deanne and the Treaty Oasis team. It was our first investment in Southeast Asia in 2020. We helped that team move to a new facility, scale up some of their capacity, bring in higher quality equipment to improve the output of their production. And then we spent a couple years working with the team to think about how they would build a bottle-to-bottle recycling plant, which resulted in the joint venture with Alba. And then that led to an ADB loan to help scale that project up. And I just think this is a great example of where Circulate Capital or a private investor can provide that early risk capital, and then a DFI like ADB can come in and help supercharge that opportunity, help empower a trade sale like what would happen with Treaty Oasis and Alba, which was an exit for our fund, but then also tremendous opportunity for the future. And it's also in the context of ADB's policy-based lending to help improve the enabling ecosystem across Indonesia. So last week I was honored to join Yoko and some of the ADB team at the UN Ocean Conference in Nice in France, where we saw the announcement of the Clean Ocean Initiative, sort of 2.0 relaunch. It was a very exciting moment. I was honored to be representing private investors there. I was wearing a different suit, I promise, but it looks like it's the same one, but it's a different one. I did that on purpose, and look, it didn't work out. This is an initiative where we have many DFIs coming together and committing $6 billion for ocean positive and plastic pollution prevention in the ocean. We were honored to be contributing to the original Clean Ocean Initiative over the last 5 years of commitment through EIB and AFD's investments in our funds, and we're looking forward to seeing how this scales up. But it was really exciting to see ADB come to the table to this. As I've talked about, Asia is the epicenter of this space. It's where the opportunity and the need is, and we really need a lot more engagement from this region. So this was an exciting moment to see. For us at Circulate Capital, we are thinking about what's next. We've been investing in plastic for the last 5 years. We see a lot more need and opportunity there. We are scaling up our work. We are raising larger funds. And we're expanding our scope to the broader circular economy. First, all types of packaging, paper, metal, glass. If you work in this space, you recognize that the informal sector primarily is not just collecting plastic. They're also collecting paper. They're also collecting metals. And they have to go to multiple places to drop that stuff off. If we can bring those together into a single supply chain, there's a lot of efficiency to be gained. So we're looking at some very exciting paper investments, and we also have some of our plastic recycling companies looking to expand into other materials. Also, the paperization of the packaging space is a macro trend that we're watching very closely. I mentioned earlier about e-waste. Critical minerals and metals is something that has now taken, I think, is quite in the zeitgeist. It's a key topic in the newspaper every day. There's two ways to get at critical minerals. You can drill more and extract more out of the earth, or you can use the ones that we've already extracted that are trapped in used electronics. There's newer technology available to help capture and recover more of that, but the value chain doesn't exist to really deploy that technology. So we're seeing opportunities to scale up the existing e-waste recycling systems in the region and also enable new technologies to come in. But for us, we see the window is now. This next 5 years will be absolutely critical for the circular economy and ocean plastic prevention in this region. We already heard a little bit, but the Global Plastic Treaty has its final negotiation moment in a couple months in Switzerland in August. And coming out of the UN meetings last week, I can tell you this is almost certainly the final meeting. I don't think there's interest in more meetings after this, so this is the moment. We also have seen tremendous dynamic evolutions in national policy across South and Southeast Asia. I mentioned India has been kind of leading the way. They've been doing EPR for a decade. And they just rolled out these new plastic waste management rules that require about 20 or 30% use of recycled plastic in all packaging. We just heard about the Philippines leading the way in Southeast Asia. Vietnam has now rolled out plastic waste management and EPR rules. We're seeing them in development in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So there's a huge opportunity to influence policy in not just the creation of these rules, but how they're implemented and evolved, because we expect them to continue to improve over time. And there's significantly more corporate pressure. Many of our corporate partners have hit kind of hit a wall in terms of their ability to implement and achieve their goals that they set 5 years ago on plastic pollution. They've all kind of reset or restated a lot of those goals because they weren't able to achieve what they wanted to achieve, which means that their pressure to actually succeed this time is significantly greater. And we're seeing much more engagement with the commercial teams than ever before that are really integrating circular economy into their business, with a Unilever, with a Danone, with a Procter & Gamble, with a Dow. It's much less talk and much more action, which makes it harder, to be honest. It's a lot easier to talk. But that does mean that we're seeing more commercial opportunities and more pressure from our corporate partners to deliver on that. So, as we see what is happening these next 5 years, I do think ADB has an absolutely critical role in this community as a whole. The policy-based lending component, engaging with the public sector and policy making, as I mentioned, is critical, but helping catalyze more private capital. And then all of the work as platforms across the region, connecting different ecosystem players, different parts of the region. ADB can really play a critical role. And for us at Circulate Capital, we are looking to scale up our work. We think that there needs to be much more capital invested in the sector, and we're very excited to think about our next fund and how we can partner with folks that are in this room and beyond. And so I think we are really honored to be here and engage with you all today and in the future as we are all tackling and taking advantage of this great opportunity called the circular economy. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Rob. And don't worry, if you repeated that suit it's fine because it's part of circular economy, right? Like you have to keep repeating your outfits instead of just throwing them away. So it's okay. So thank you so much for your keynote. I love how Rob said that many years ago you wouldn't even hear the term circular economy, and now we have an entire forum dedicated to it. So we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And just a teaser because Diane of 3D Oasis, which Rob highlighted in his talk. She will be part of the closing panel tomorrow, so you better come back and listen to that very inspiring story. And when DJ Bruno said earlier that we have to have solutions at scale, Circulate Capital is actually one of those companies really pushing. And I've had the opportunity to work with Circulate Capital, and they really changed the benchmark of what enterprises can do. With support like that, enterprises can dream bigger and also do much more. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And now I know you are looking forward to the next part, which is the break. The next session will be your coffee break, your merienda, your AM snacks. So we would like to invite you to please go outside, take some fresh air. We have good weather today. It's not raining. So please get some fresh air, get your coffee, get your snacks, and we will be back here at 10:30. You will hear a bell to signal people to come back. That is not a sound bath. That is your alarm to come back here. So thank you and see you at 10:30.